So you have YouTube and Facebook and Apple and I guess Spotify kicking Alex Jones off all of its platforms in one day. Left claims that there's collusion with Russia. I mean, the real collusion here is with the tech giants trying to suppress anyone who has a non-liberal point of view. They're not even trying to hide it. Again, it gets back to this idea of hate speech. Now, this is the long con by the left by setting up this hate speech idea as far as 10, 15, 20 years ago, where if you use derogatory language, well, that's hate speech. And now they're trying to say, well, that's not even free speech. That's not protected under the First Amendment, even though the Supreme Court has rightfully ruled repeatedly that it is. But this is how these tech giants are getting around kicking people who don't have a liberal opinion off of their platforms, just using this umbrella term of hate speech, an ambiguous term of hate speech. And Twitter, actually, their executive actually had the nerve to testify in front of Congress. They don't shadow ban. They don't do any of that stuff. They don't suppress conservative speech. They don't suppress anyone's speech based on viewpoint if it doesn't meet their term of service. Well, the term of service, quite frankly, I mean, again, they just use, oh, it's hate speech. You're committing hate speech, so therefore you're banned. Look at Candace Owens. You have this woman from the New York Times who just got hired. She hasn't started yet. She just got hired. I think her name is Jeong, to be the tech editor. Has tweeted over the years anti-white, anti-men tweets. Quite frankly, I don't have a problem with any of it. It's her opinion. She's dumb. She's stupid, but she wants to tweet that she hates white men. Fine, I don't care. But let's not have a double standard here. He goes out and tweets all this stuff about white men, white people, derogatory, nasty statements that if you replaced the word white with black or Jew or anything else, women, Hispanic, well, you'd be thrown off of Twitter. And that's exactly what Candace Owens did. She wanted to prove a point. She took this woman's tweets, Jeong's tweets, and put black where it normally would have said white. So if it said she'd like to incinerate all white men, Candace Owens took out white and put black. And Twitter suspended her for 12 hours for violating the community guidelines. Here you got this idiot, Jeong, who just got hired by the New York Times. They knew who they were hiring. They did a background check. They went through all of her social media. I mean, she is like the social media or tech editor. So of course they're going to have gone through her social media account, and they were fine with that. Now they got called out for it, for the double standard, and they're making up a bullshit argument as far as her behavior. Again, I don't care what she tweets. I don't read the New York Times. It's garbage. It's slanted bias bullshit. And if they want to hire this woman, fine, so be it. But don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. All right, don't sit there and say, well, she did it in response to the trolls, and she was just mimicking the bullshit. I think like 99.9% of the nasty tweets that she put out about white people and hating men and hating cops and all this other stuff wasn't in response to anybody. She was just making statements. And these other news organizations who are defending her, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Oh, she is responding to hate and trolls, using the language of trolls. Or shit. She's just a hateful bigot. But the left, again, using the umbrella ambiguous term of hate speech, get to suppress people they don't agree with, their point of view. You have people actually say, well, hate speech is not free speech, and therefore to make these platforms more welcoming, we need to get rid of these hateful points of view. But they turn around and say, in response to Jeong, when someone says, well, what she's saying is racist. No. We need to insulate all the left from the racist comments by changing the definition of racism in their mind to say it's bigotry plus power. That only white people have the power to be racist, and only white people can be racist, which is absolute horseshit. That's not what the Merriam-Webster's dictionary of racism is, but the left has taken the language and, like everything else, bastardized it to the point where it's creating division. It's allowing them to be racist, it's allowing them to be bigoted, and lets them sleep a little bit better at night, knowing that they're bigoted and they're racist, but yet, because their definition says you have to have power with it, then they're fine. Well, who the hell was the president last 8 years? It's a black man. I mean, this notion that, Sarah Jeong doesn't have power, so therefore, bullshit. She's been voted to be the tech editor of one of the premier newspapers historically in the entire world. She's going to be writing on tech stuff, dealing with the censorship of the internet. The exact same thing that Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Apple have done today to Alex Jones, thrown him off their platform. And here you have a bigot, a racist, who's going to be reporting on that. That's fine, but just don't sit there and tell me that she's not racist. You know, you don't get to sit there and wrap yourself up in your little insulation of your new definition of racism and get to be bigoted yourself. It doesn't get to work that way. And all the other publications who are saying, well, she's just responding to the trolls, that's bullshit too. It's absolute bullshit, because she very clearly was not responding to anybody. For the most part, she was just putting these statements out there because she is a leftist nutbag who went to a Ivy League school for her law degree and learned nothing more than stupidity as far as a simple way of viewing the world. But she's got a new job at the New York Times. All the more power to her. I mean, that's what the New York Times wanted. That's what they got. And, you know, I think that just shows how horrible these leftist organizations are. And as far as today's concerned, you know, this is obviously collusion to get Alex Jones. I saw Media Matters then said, well, we need to get rid of the climate deniers too. So basically now we're going to have anyone who doesn't have the same opinion as far as climate change is concerned, they should be off of Facebook. This is where it's going. You don't agree with me, then you're a racist. You're committing hate speech, and you should be deplatformed. So that's where we're headed. That's where the tolerant left is going with their speech, is let's throw these people off of every platform so they don't have an opinion. You just listen to our opinion. You know, it used to be when you only had the 3 top news channels operating. You had the major newspapers and you had the 3 liberal news channels. You had Walter Cronkite lying about the war in Vietnam every night. You had Dan Rather making up whatever Dan Rather was making up. You have the 3 major news channels and 3 major networks who have historically been the ones who've held the key to people's understanding of what's going on in the world, along with the newspapers, and that's changed with the internet. You have people on the right who've now gotten their opinions out. Alex Jones, take him or leave him. You don't have to take him. I get it. Apple is a private company. It's not the state. It's a company. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I get it. As much as I hate to say it, as a free market person, it's getting to the point now where their platforms are the public square. And if you're going to start doing this sort of deplatforming of people because you don't agree with them, then maybe it's time for the feds to step in and say, you know what, we're gonna take away your immunity under the Communications Decency Act. We're going to take away your immunity from suit because you are a monopoly and you are acting with viewpoint discrimination and you're picking sides, and so you're not going to get your immunity anymore under the law. And let's take it a step further. You know what? Regulate it like a utility. You don't get to sit there and occupy this whole area. I mean, Facebook. You look at Apple and Android, Google. They cornered the market on apps, and the app Gab was thrown off of Apple and Google's platform, the Android platform, because of potential hate speech, because Gab said, you know what, we're not going to censor anybody. Well, it's because of potential hate speech. Apple threw them off, refused to keep their app on the market. I mean, those are the major areas where people get their apps. So really, that's kind of a monopoly. And if you look at how all these actions take place all at once, like today with Alex Jones, then it's really just, you can't not look at that and not go, that looks like collusion. And the left is running around with their heads cut off like a bunch of chickens, worried about Russia collusion. Well, we've been investigating this now for almost 2 years, and there's not been one iota of evidence that Trump administration colluded with Russia. But what we do have is more than, I think, a preponderance of the evidence to show that the tech giants are colluding to subvert the speech of citizens that they don't agree with. And so I think at this point, Congress, the Senate, they need to haul these assholes back in, put them under oath, have them testify, start drafting legislation to stop some of this shit, because this whole ambiguousness, what's hate, it's a catch-all, hate speech. Oh, it's a catch-all. You said something that I don't agree with, so therefore it's hate speech. You know, just look at Project Veritas's videos on Twitter, the undercover videos, where they say, oh yeah, of course, we don't like what they got to say. If you're a Trump supporter, we shadow ban you. We suppress what you have to say. And then you got this asshole testifying in front of Congress from Twitter, who testified. And the question from Ted Cruz saying, oh, we don't shadow ban. Those people weren't speaking for Twitter. That's exactly what Twitter does. Look, either there are folks who work for Twitter and that was their part and parcel practice, and then you've got a real problem then if they're not operating underneath your procedure, because you have a real problem then with your employees doing whatever, and then you need to get a hold of them, get them under control, or you're lying. And I'm going to bet you're lying, because Twitter, they'll keep the bigots on there. Louis Farrakhan, he's got a Twitter account. He's super bigoted, anti-Semitic. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Candace Owens says the exact same thing as some bigot, some racist that has been hired by the New York Times. Nope. Just proves how biased they are. And now with Alex Jones being deplatformed everywhere, I mean, that's going to be the new way to do it, to get rid of conservatives. Facebook's already suppressing how far conservative news outlets, how far their reach is. They're throttling the audiences that can get to these conservative news sites. But if you have someone that strays from the plantation of thought, then they get thrown out. Then they get suppressed. So don't sit there and tell all of us that you're not doing that. Then hide behind this bullshit notion of hate speech. If you're going to do that, then Sarah Jeong and all the other bigots who are anti-white or anti-men or anti-Jew, the people who say that the Israelis are terrorists and all that, they got to be thrown off too. And I don't think that should happen. But this is going to be the new part and parcel practice for liberal tech giants to start deplatforming anyone who strays and disagrees. If you don't support narrative that there are 75 different genders, then you're transphobic. If you don't agree with gay marriage, well, you're a homophobe. So we got to throw you off. If you don't agree with the narrative of Black Lives Matter, that's basically the lie that it's based on, which is hands up, don't shoot, that these black men are being killed just by the thousands every day in the street, which is not the case. FBI statistics, Department of Justice statistics show that is not the case. But if you disagree with that, then you're a racist. So, and the left comes up with some new mental disorder every day. And I don't mean a new classification mental disorder. They come up with something new and stupid just about every day and then shove it down our throat. And it's almost like I think it's on purpose. They throw so many different wacky, stupid, out of the norm practices and ideas at us all that we can't keep up. Can't keep up with them all. And if you refute any of them, then you're the problem. They're starting to say that pedophilia shouldn't be punished. You in 5 years, if you disagree with that statement, then come up with some sort of ism that you're committing. It's absolutely asinine. And sit there and say that, these tech giants are not there. It's open warfare. And frankly, I think at this point, they definitely need to be regulated like utilities, because this is bullshit. These groups get to wrap themselves up in new definitions of racism to protect them from being racist themselves, while using the catch-all of hate speech to get rid of people they don't agree with.